Hey, brother, how we doing today?
Yeah, good, Richie. How are you, bro?
Hey, man, awesome. Thanks for taking the time to spread the word.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. I've got a show over here called the Metal Bar. Um,
Okay.
so that'll be going out on that. And we'll also I'll do an article off the back of this as well for a Libel Music, which is another website down here as well. So
Fuck yeah.
we'll
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Hella.
no worries, man. No worries. All good. I actually, Richie, I saw you guys back in 2008
Oh,
at
shit.
the House of Blues on Sunset.
Oh, that was the baby years.
Yeah, I've been going through the drawers looking. I bought a t-shirt. I've still got it somewhere. I can't find.
No,
I was going to put it on for the interview and I couldn't find the fucking t-shirt. But
no fucking way, man. I would love to see that.
it was one with the dead robot on it, and inside
Oh,
says
yeah.
grey t-shirt, inside scrawled in red, like spray paint
Damn, dude.
styles.
I remember that, man. That was one of our first tours we ever did.
Yeah, I think it was bleeding through. Dillinger Escape Plan, Cavalera Conspiracy.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember. There was one other band as well,
Um,
but
Throwdown
yes, Throwdown. That's who it was.
and then Insight. Yep.
Yeah, man.
That's correct.
That was a great show, man. I was just happened to be there on holiday, and I walked up to the House of Blues and went, "What's on tomorrow night?" I was just like, "Cavalera, fuck yeah, I'm all over that." So I bought tickets and turned up. It was fantastic.
Dude, yeah, that was awesome. That was like Cavalera's like first US tour and yeah, one of ours too. God, we must have sucked so bad. It probably I would laugh to see some footage from them.
Well, don't worry. I didn't film anything, so you're okay. You're off the hook.
Man. Hey, well, you bought a shirt though, so it couldn't have been that bad. That hypes me up.
Yeah, man. It was kind of, I knew the story. I knew who Insight was, and I was like, oh, support these guys. They're doing it. They're jumping on and getting it. So yeah, it's funny because I wear that shirt to gigs sometimes, and people are like, oh wow, like how old is that? And I'm like,
Damn.
yeah, totally,
Dude,
man.
that is fucking awesome. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite designs we ever did. That's so cool. Mad love.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And thank you. I mean, fucking for keeping on doing it. I mean, Savage New Times. Is the new album fucking I mean I hear that like Savage New Times and it just feels like a rallying cry, doesn't it? Savage New Times. It's like we all know we're fucked, so let's get behind this.
It's cool because yeah, I mean, like it was more like a perspective of each guy's kind of like life for the last few years, and then like it's totally evolved into like more of like a representation of like the world and shit going on, you know. And I think that's like so cool about music is like the idea behind it can evolve so much depending on perspective or listener and anything else. So it's cool that it's like I don't know if it's cool, but it's matching up to a lot of shit going on. It's wild, man. But I'm glad it's being dug by people and listened to, man.
Yeah, well, it's definitely that, man. Definitely that. I actually on the show last week, I always do a featured album or a featured artist. So I know Lies had just popped, and I had already played Dolores and stuff. So and No Mercy, No Forgiveness. So I did like three tracks back to back, and was like, new Inside album's
Man,
coming, man. Get amongst it. This is a taster. And
man, thank you.
yeah, man, my pleasure. I mean, the thing with you guys, it's quite funny because you see descriptions of how bands
Yeah,
and it's like groove thrash and all this, and I'm like, because I hear that, and sure, I hear some of that, but I don't think I hear groove thrash. I think Pantera, and you guys have got
yeah.
way more of almost like a bit of a crust punk kind of DIY garage sound going on as well as all that stuff.
Oh yeah. I think it's funny because like we don't I guess get to determine what everybody classifies as because we always just express ourselves as a heavy metal band. You know that's literally what we are. We take so much from influences of every genre and we package it in our style and our way and like make it really just fuse together nicely. And yeah, we offer elements of groove and thrash, but yeah, like you said, it's so much stuff. We result back to so many 80s metal bands and even before that 70s and everything in between. So for us it's cool that you're picking out that there's just so much more going on to us than just your typical thrash groove band.
Yeah, and Richie, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. I'm sure you get it with all your interviews, the surname, right? And everybody's like, oh, so there's a lot of, I guess people naturally compare. But for you as an
Yeah.
artist, how did you find your own voice, rather than just being part of the family name, and how did you come out from underneath, if you like?
Yeah, like when we started, like the big stuff, it was driven by metalcore, a lot of that, and like the ending of emo evolving into like metalcore and that kind of, breakdown driven music that was happening in like 2008, 2007 that really, was kind of influencing us. Like the drummer was a huge Avenged Sevenfold guy, and everybody had just like stuff that was hot at the time, So that's what we looked at. To us at that time, bands like Sepultura, Soulfly, Max stuff wasn't like eating through in our influence. Obviously, probably me to a certain extent, but I never write the music, so I don't really hold that into what I'm doing. Our music's always driven by the guys that are the ones writing it, whoever is that guy at the time. And I think we were able to not like put ourselves in this like following of his footsteps. It's more like just continuing on this Cavalera legacy and heavy music in general, and that's how I took my responsibility in heavy metal and what I was doing and like where I wanted to be represented, and my influences come from bands like Deftones and
Mm.
Snot and Lynn Straight vibes, and I think Mike Muir is a huge person, and like my influences are so different than what like people are expecting, and the vibe that I'm expecting, and we just created, man, and just did what we felt people wanted to hear. Like if I bought a record, that's what I would want to hear what we're doing, So that's like our vibe always, like creating stuff we want to jam. And that's how it's evolved and taken this route and just kind of being Incite and not like Incite featuring Richie, that's more the press that kind of creates that rather than
Mm.
us. We don't really put that out in anything, it's about a band creating their way and doing their thing and having this cool thing on the side that they're about and they come from. I think it adds some cool shit to it.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Inside album, this one, Savage New Times, it does feel like it's an evolution in your sound again. I mean, it still sounds like
Definitely.
Insight, but you're finding new places to go. I mean, how do you? I suppose how do you do that? I mean, is it something that's a conscious thing, or is it just where the music takes you?
I think what this record was just like the real natural progression of our sound. Like I think when you go listen to, the first two records and then you hear Up in Hell where Lennon and L come in, I think Up in Hell is that record that really begins to establish us and what we're doing. This genre kind of filling band that takes a lot of things and throws it in, from like Fallen to What the Fuck and the songs that are on that record. And then, we brought in a new guitar player, and that's what you hear on Oppression and Built to Destroy. It's this hostile takeover from this dude that came in and just didn't allow the band to grow and write and progress like we should have. I think when you hear Up in Hell and then you listen to like Wake Up Dead and then this one, that's the progression that Insight should have taken.
Yeah.
100%. You hear that from those records, but then you hear these two that are kind of in the middle there, and you're like, it's them and they're badass records, but it didn't fit that progression that we should have taken. And I think once we removed that person and did Wake Up Dead, you saw us fall back into like what me, Lennon, and L strive for with this band to be. And then Savage New Times is the completion of that finally coming, and Lane becoming a part of the band, and him literally being the guy that we like have needed for the last 13 years to complete us. And his work ethic, his musical style, his writing ability. I mean, he came in, dude, and was just like fully involved in this band, and that made us realize, like, damn, one dude really can fuck a lot of shit up or make it incredible. And that's what we got to experience. So I think, yeah, the progression is so natural when you look at it like that and you see where we're going. And songs like Mental Destruction, where we introduced acoustic on the last one, and now it's like piano in this full dark ride
Mm.
on Dolores. Like I think now you're seeing that real way that we're taking it, and it should have went the whole time. So it's cool to be back on track.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that because can we get a little peek behind the curtain? I mean, how does the
Yeah.
Insight writing process work?
Yeah, so Up in Hell was very camaraderie. This guitar player, he was just entering the band, so he didn't feel like he had that chest to come in and speak that. We really just this record was just written just out of air by guys that just were just trying to figure it out. And I just think that was the beginning process. And then the longer this person was in the band, they realized, hey, I'm the guitar player, I can kind of control the whole writing process. And that's what happened. We'd have these deadlines for when an album was due, and we wouldn't hear nothing, our input would be disregarded, and it just, dude, it sucked. We wouldn't know what the songs were until we walked in like a week before we went to record them, and be like scrambling to figure out what the hell we even have and what's going on. And that literally is what happened from Oppression and Built to Destroy. It was just a mess of one guy's ego. And thankfully things happened in the universe that made him vanish out of our band and not be a part of it. And that really let us just open up, man. Now it's like Lennon, the drummer, stepping up, and he's like, dude, I've got all these riffs. And I heard him and I was just floored. It's like, this is what we should have been doing. As much as I love those records and their vibes, it wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't who we were. And now it's becoming that, Lennon stepping up, becoming a huge writer. And then again, like I said, Lane joining that. The thing is so about everybody doing their part, having a voice, getting to be involved every step of the way. And that just changed everything. It made us all just more comfortable, happy, satisfied with what we're doing and the product that's coming out. When you worked with a producer like Steve Evans 4 times, even he notices that. He's like, dude, that dude's a dick. It's like that's like that solidification that you understand that, like, finally we're right where we should be with the right people now.
Yeah, well, and on that too, because right, what you're talking about, like you got a week with a song before you got to go record it.
Yeah.
You got to live with songs sometimes, right? Because the song that you first write might not be the finished. That song hasn't finished evolving. You got to live with it for a while. You got to play it a bunch of times, and as you're playing it, as you're getting used to the song, it takes you in different directions. You get other ideas. So, how long now, like on an album like Savage, are you living with a song before you going, all right, bang, here's the finished product?
Oh, I mean, that was the biggest change for sure. Like, I was able to write lyrics to a demo and then go to the studio and completely write the song over or change it substantially. And that was a big difference from prior records, not having that time. So we made a really good plan to make this an efficient album. We actually sent Lennon and Lane together to a place to write and just smoke weed, drink, fucking vibe out, fully connect, and write these songs. So it was like probably 6 months we had all the music in demo mode, where we're all working, we're all redoing, restructuring, because so much changes when I bring the lyrics, because then we're putting in where the chorus is, where the verse is, things like that. So a lot has to evolve, and having that time to catch up and sync that stuff up and get it right before we take it to record it's monumental. And I think that's what you're noticing with a lot of bands that are really putting stuff out too fast, is it's losing that feeling, it's losing the artisticness, it's losing, like you said, that time to sit on it and really ingest it in, and then come back to it. And that's what we were able to do. And I just think it demonstrates it on the quality of the songs and the album that we were given, to everybody, like having that stuff in place and more structured. It was just it's so much funner too.
Yeah. Well, one of the songs that stands out off the album for me is, and I think it's because of the dynamics you use and the change of pace. And you mentioned it in Dolores with the piano and the vibe, the ambience that you've got there. I know that song comes from like a recurring nightmare, right? That you've
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
How long have you been sitting on that idea?
That was actually going to be the topic title for Wake Up Dead. It was called Dolores, and the EP was supposed to be driven around that entire scenario and that entire situation, because that's when it really popped back up into my life from when I was a child to then. So, management stepped in and they're like, look, you don't want to call an album a name, it's not very successful. Look at these people. And we were just, we were with a manager that we had a huge respect for. So we we trusted them and went with what they said. And, it turns out they were right. They weren't right about a lot, but this works out to where it was like, okay, now we're making this whole album and we have this really different song. And it allowed for Dolores to come forward and show what it was meant for. I think that's something so cool again about art and creating and music and, revisiting something for when its time is absolutely meant to be. And that's like, I couldn't have thought of another topic or something in my present mind that would have related to that song and make that song work and come across as it did. I think anything else would have probably been a failure in my eyes. That was just the way it was meant to be and the way it was going to be perfect. And it's cool to look back and see how that transpired into that way.
Yeah, you talk about the creativity and the artistry of it. What about cross media? Because I listened to that and then I read some stuff that you were talking about that song and what it meant.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think, have you ever thought, of sitting down with, I mean, Rob Zombie's probably the obvious one, but sitting down and going, bro, how do we turn this into a movie?
Oh, I would have loved to do that. It was like we had all these insane ideas for a video for it, but I think everybody was very cautious about what it was gonna be perceived as. I think we wanted to take a big risk and at least have it be a single. And it just, we weren't sure what kind of thing it was going to be, so the label was like, we'll kind of put it in the middle and we'll have it be more of a lyrical video. And I think it would be great to have somebody like Rob Zombie come and put that into a theatrical setting, because we pictured like people being buried alive. And I love when they added the kind of the woman in red dancing in the water kind of look. Like,
Mm.
I think we could have really done some incredible stuff with that footage wise. And, hopefully this thing blows up enough to where those kind of ideas can be presented to those people and we can push it further and, expand on art, because I'm a big fan of like that. And I think a lot of these songs could be used for movies and that kind of vibe, which I never felt about an Insight album or song before.
Mm. The I know this is a personal thing, right? The Dolores we talked about, it's been this recurring nightmare. But
Oh yeah.
on the other side of that, are you excuse me? Are you a horror fan? I mean, are you somebody that
Oh,
watches horror movies, reads horror books, that sort of stuff?
Oh, definitely. That's probably why I was having nightmares like this as a kid. I mean, my parents, they were gone a lot, so our time together was like sitting down on the couch with all the kids and them and watching, Friday the 13th or Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger, Aliens, like all of that, Hellraiser. Like we were exposed to that stuff. My family was really cool about like, hey, this stuff's out there and you just need to know it now rather than beat around the bush and fuck you up later. So it was definitely huge and a big part of my upbringing. And like I said, probably a big reason why that dream happened in the first place. But I think we all kind of have that as a kid. We're haunted or touched by other things that I think our adult minds can't imagine. So I think that happening to me and me being able to remember it so vividly all of a sudden later in life was really cool. And something like, again, that's just meant to be uh the way it plays out.
Yeah, I'll give you a recommendation. There's an Australian horror writer, a guy called Alan Baxter, and he wrote a book called Sallow Bend, which is about the ghost of a vengeful witch in this sort of small town America.
Solo Bend.
Sallow, like Sallow.
Okay.
Yeah, if you like Stephen King, but with a bit more of a gothic twist, it's kind of got that vibe about it.
Yes, thank you. I love recommendations on stuff because obviously you guys have completely different stuff than we do going on here. So thank you. Oh yeah, I'll check that out for sure.
Yeah, no worries, Rich. So,
Yeah.
what about you guys post album? Once this album is out, which is not too far away into this week, Savage, New Times. What's the
Yeah.
plan for the tour? Are we going to see you down in this part of the world at any point?
Man, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So we toured there, I believe it was like 2010 or 11. I think it was the only time we've been there, and we have been trying and trying and trying to go back. And it's really up to promoters, it's really up to the bookers, and the other bands. So I'm hoping that all of a sudden I just got like 20 interviews for New Zealand and Australia. So I'm hoping something's happening that I'm not aware of, and they're just trying to prep everybody for Incite to come down there. But um, currently, we just wrapped up a tour last week with Hatebreed, and that was unreal for us to like have that be the first tour that kicks us off and really gets us going. And I think I have about 2.5 more weeks of a break, and then we start a U.S. tour with 6 Feet Under, and that I'm just beyond stoked. Like Chris Barnes, he's a legend. He's controversial. He's fun. He's been a great like supporter of Incite. He's taken us on 2 European tours. He guest spotted on our record Built to Destroy, which is like a fucking dream come true to have him sing on our song. And now he's taken us out in America, and a really extensive tour, about 6 weeks long, covering pretty much everywhere. So that'll be our next adventure. And then hopefully this record comes out and does what we're all hoping it does. And then I think the whole world's going to get to see a lot of Incite. And I think that's a good thing. I think everybody's really excited for the fresh bands that are coming out. And people are tripping that we have 7 albums, so they're just like finding out about all these cool records that they just never knew existed. And hopefully, yeah, a lot of touring, man. We'll
Yeah.
definitely be there.
Yeah, cool, man. I look forward to it. Now,